Hello everyone and welcome to the Talking Stick Show. So today I am joined by my brother James Gopala. Hello James.
Hey Dale, how you doing, brother? Good to be on the show again.
Thank you for coming on again, brother. It's great to see you. I'm doing very well, thank you. How have you been?
Yeah, it's been fun. We've opened the center 2 weeks ago, so it's been really busy and just getting back into the old schedule and the timetable. So it's been great to see students, great to get back to class, but it's also been quite intense, quite full on. So yeah, it's nice to have a relaxing weekend this weekend.
Beautiful. And so what has it been like for you? So you've gone from the lockdown where you've been doing certain things, doing a lot of things online, going to doing stuff physically. How has that been for you? How's your schedule at the moment doing that?
Yeah, so I think with lockdown, we were recording classes, but I had no fixed time other than 1 or 2 live classes. I could just go into the studio anytime and just record and then send them a little bit later the next day. So I didn't have that discipline, or that, when you need to be somewhere, you have to be at class at a certain time. You have a responsibility to yourself and to your students and to the center. So when lockdown started, that kind of all went out the window. So I was eating at funny times, I was going to bed late, everything was mixed up. And it was nice in a sense to have a break and that structure to dissolve, because like for the last 7 years, I've kind of had to, work like this, a very strict sort of timetable. So it was nice. I mean, I think this last 4 months is the longest time I've had kind of off full-time teaching since I got back. So it was nice in a sense to have that break, but I think it needed to happen for the old structure to dissolve a little bit, to break down. And now I'm back. It's kind of, I've rebuilt my structure, my timetable. I'm more disciplined. I'm doing more meditation. I feel like it's kind of moved up to another level of discipline, really. So it's still early days. It's only been 2 weeks, but I feel good. And yeah, I'm looking forward to, I think the lockdown has given us time to process and to go into certain areas of our lives, go into our shadow. Like I've had a lot of shadow come up over the last few months. I think a lot of people have been challenged. Everyone's gone through their own process. I've definitely gone through my own process. And I'm hoping that we will reap the reward of this period of time. It might not be this year, it might be next year, but you have to be optimistic that all of these challenges that a lot of people have gone through and a lot of shadow that's come up with the healing that we've gone through, that, there's going to be light at the end of the tunnel. There's going to be rewards for us. So I know that come September, when the timetable starts up fully, and fingers crossed the yoga teacher training is up and running, I'm going to be busy. I'm going to need to be disciplined, but it's going to be an expansive sort of time, really.
Beautiful, beautiful. So on this show, we're going to talk about discipline. So what is discipline, James, and why is it important?
Discipline allows you to stay centered and grounded, and to be connected to yourself, and to not allow bad habits or negative programs to take over. So if I'm teaching, I have a responsibility. I have a responsibility to the center. I have a responsibility to my students in class. I have a responsibility to myself to show up, to be on form, to do the best that I can possibly do and be the best I possibly can be. So certainly doing the work that I do as a yoga teacher, Pilates teacher, I have to be very disciplined with looking after my body based on like old injuries and doing my own exercises and my own practice. But also as a spiritual teacher, there's a responsibility to maintain and to go deep into your own subconscious, go into your own spiritual practice, to process it's a continual journey of processing and working through shadow, working through trauma, working through things that stop you from being present and being grounded and being an effective teacher. So it's all about discipline, really. I know a teacher that we both follow, Andrew Bartsis, says the level of awareness is directly proportional to your level of responsibility. So as you develop and grow in awareness and grow in discipline, then you have the responsibility to maintain that practice, you know, and to maintain that level and that level of centeredness and groundedness that you're on. So yeah, it's a big part of this path, I feel.
Beautiful. And yeah, that discipline moment, like you said, the programs which stop everyone from coming off the path. I have had those programs in the past where it's led me onto things which I shouldn't have got into, so on and so forth. So very true that you have the responsibility for yourself, for your students, for the people you're doing it for. So let's talk a little bit about programs, James. What are programs?
So programs, much like a computer is programmed, we become programmed as children, and it's those first 7 years there where we're most easily influenced and where the programs are really fixed and formed, and the programs and the lessons and the conditioning and the impressions and the memories that we have from childhood often form the rest of our life. They form our future. So essentially, you know, when we're children, our brain waves are functioning differently. We're more in alpha, even into theta and delta as a small baby. So we don't have the same discriminating power that we do as adults. So everything we see, everything we experience, we take to be literal. We take to be as fact. And mum and dad, the people who brought us up, they are our gods. And essentially everything they do is, you know, the way we perceive it is absolute and true. So what we tend to do is we learn through imitation, we learn through observation the habits of our parents. So that can be a great thing. Obviously, we're taught to, you know, look before we cross the road, or, you know, we're taught important lessons, and our parents may have so many positive qualities which are great to inherit, and that's what makes us unique, and that's kind of working with our ancestral lineage. But also, nobody's perfect, so we're going to also inherit some negative habits, bad habits, maybe anger issues, or being emotionally closed, or being very reactive, or being very judgmental, whatever it might be. And we're going to learn those habits, and we might consciously want to fight against those habits. We might see them as being negative in our conscious mind, but we're still probably going to act them out in our relationships. And it's that strange kind of, we can't help but be influenced by these things. Also, there's trauma and painful memories that are going to influence how we behave, how we open up emotionally, how we react to the world, our level of confidence, all these different things. So the spiritual journey, the way I see it, is essentially becoming aware of your programs, becoming aware of who you are based on the way you're brought up, based on the way your parents and your relationship to your siblings, and maybe other people like grandparents and cousins and aunties and uncles and friends, but primarily it's looking at your parents. And when you become aware of these habits that you've inherited, then you can start to augment the positives, and you can start to look at just diminishing the negative habits. And so really meditation and hypnotherapy, even going to past life regression, is looking at those repetitive programs, those repetitive karmic cycles and issues, thought patterns, emotional patterns, and start to change them. So we literally reprogram ourselves like we reprogram a computer. We delete the old files and we start to replace them with these new positive affirming files.
So that, for me, going back, like looking back at the start of my journey, there was so many triggers for me, what put me into polarity, or whatever you want to talk about it. And it's taken a long process from me doing meditation, forgiveness, using self-discipline to kind of overcome those programs. There was times where, just because I've got children, my dad's program will come out of me, where what he used to do with us, his behavior towards eating and stuff like that, it's kind of like it just shoots out of me. Like, you know, when say the kids are eating, it'd be like, oh, make sure you finish your food, because that's what I got told as a kid. So then I started to say it to the kids. So I've had to myself take a step back and really look at, what am I doing with my words? What are coming from me, from the I am presence, from the soul, or what are programs created through ancestral karma passed on to me?
Exactly, yeah, exactly. And it's great that you can see that and observe that. And that's what it's all about, is bringing awareness day to day, moment to moment, into the way you interact. It's normally when you interact with other people, that's when we get the reflections, and that's when we can be easily triggered, especially with family or parents, where we have such strong kind of history or emotional connection with them. And so, you know, it's just having the self-awareness and the self-control to not allow negative patterns and habits just to keep resurfacing. It's hard work, it's very challenging but the more you do the meditation, the more you do the shamanic journeying, the ceremony, the hypnotherapy, and all these different practices, then these things, they lose their control. But also using like affirmations and visualizations to create the new programs. Okay, this is how I want to be. This is how, you know, this is how I visualize and I imagine myself to be into the future. Like you build and create this new way of being. And when you visualize and when you imagine, you're literally starting to recalibrate, reprogram those synaptic connections. And Joe Dispenza, he talks a lot about this, and many masters, you know, have done many traditions for thousands of years, but it's kind of rebirthing yourself and reimagining how you want to be, and letting go. And like you said, forgiveness is really important. Forgiving people that you perceive that have wronged you. And when you forgive, you lose the charge. Otherwise, you're always going to be in polarity. And then he takes that little trigger, and then you're like, you know, yeah, exactly. You know, oh yeah, I'm super zen, you know, there's nothing perfectly. You know, just live in the caves, and then you just meet someone and they trigger something from childhood, and then you react. Yeah. So when we can forgive and go back, yeah, I think hypnotherapy is one of the best things you can do. Go back, childhood regression, see yourself, see anyone that, you know, may have caused you pain, or you feel pain and still there's an emotional charge around, just send them love and forgiveness, and then subconsciously you'll lose that charge, and you'll be less likely to go into polarity, less likely to be triggered. But it's that spiritual practice and that spiritual discipline. You know, this stuff doesn't just happen. You know, it takes a lot of work to be in a place where you're less likely to be triggered, and that is the spiritual path, I feel.
Yeah, and so let's talk about control and discipline. So what's the difference between control and discipline, James? What are the two differences there?
Do you mean personally, or when you're dealing with other people?
So personally, so we do have these tendencies through so connecting to the programs. Control would be, say we get the programs of controlling things in a negative way, or we have to use a discipline on the spirituality, so on and so forth. Let's talk a little bit about control and how that stops us from flowing and actually being in your own self and being disciplined, so on and so forth.
Yeah, well, control is a really interesting one, and it's definitely something that I think it has been coming up for me a bit recently, and looking at how, because I say as a teacher, your job is to essentially, I'm going to say control the class, but you're managing the class. You manage, you hold space for the class, and you direct people. And therefore is that controlling? Well, in one sense it is, but I know what you mean in the sense of what is controlling is where it's actually through fear and through insecurity and feeling a lack of control that you feel you need to then control the environment. So, you know, as a, say, for example, person, as a teacher, you're in control of the class.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But say you're in a social setting and you're with a load of people, you can't just say, right, you, there, you, put your left foot there. No, left foot the other way. Right hand. Spread your fingers.
We'll all walk together this way.
Yeah. It's getting that balance between being, say you are stepping up as a leader, or you're taking the leadership role, which is a positive thing. It's really the balance between being assertive and being controlling, because controlling just comes from like that little Hitler kind of, oh, you must do what I say. It might be self-importance, or it might be, the need to be in control, the need to be validated, or the need to be, the leader. And that is all coming from fear and lack, versus, okay, I've come from a place, I've done the work, I've gone through my own process of healing. I'm in a position where, for the benefit of the group, I can lead the group and be assertive, but not be pushy. And just it's empathy. Always listen. I've read quite a bit on leadership recently, and there's different leadership styles. One of them is where you're basically bossy and telling people what to do. And that, in certain situations, that can be beneficial, but generally speaking, that's a destructive form of leadership. There are other ways to lead, and it normally is more about empathy, democracy, talking to people, coaching, encouraging, building up. And Brené Brown, in her leadership book, it's all about bringing the best out of people. So, in that respect, leadership is not about telling people what to do, because that's coming from control, and that's coming from fear, lack, anxiety, not feeling in control. And versus genuinely having the best interests of the group at heart and wanting to do what's best for the group. And that takes a lot of self-discipline to not fall into that place of control. It takes a lot of self-discipline to be in that place of leadership where you've worked on your own stuff and shadow enough where you can step up as a leader and not be controlling, authoritative, aggressive, bossy, because again, they're the negative traits of control and of leadership.
Beautiful. And it's funny, like even kids swearing, like one of the kids would say a naughty word, and it's like there's a program to be like, why have you said that word, blah blah blah, but then again they've heard us say it, and it's like then you're going on and passing on that you're crap to them, where you're like, you shouldn't be saying that, but you're saying that at the moment. It's like there's a huge fine line, and between me growing up as a kid, I've still got loads of things to deal with which come up in my reality, but it's got to the stage now where I can feel balanced in what I'm doing majority of the time, and my family are much happier because I've done so much work on myself, and I've had to come to a realization that I've got responsibility for myself and for my family, and responsibility, like I said, it is important, and it's one of the main things we have to do is be responsible for our level of awareness to meet, like we were talking about the balance. So let's talk about your life then, James. So what's it like from you having to go into, say, being a teacher, then switch off completely and like speak to friends? How do you kind of transition and keep that balanced?
Yeah, I mean, I think originally that was quite difficult, as when I came back from my travels and studies, and then you set up as a teacher, and then it's very easy to fall into that teacher identity, and where you're always on teacher mode. And then I found in the first few years, even 3-4 years, I found it very difficult to just be like a normal person and just to switch that teacher mode off. And then you find in your personal relationships, you're in that place of teacher, which isn't healthy, because friendships are more about balance and commonality, and it's not about, as a teacher, you're naturally like, okay, you're more like the one in control. So it's been a process of learning just to let go and to relax and have social time, have chill time, and to have time where you're not in the spiritual mode, you're not in teacher mode, to be able to wind down. We all need time just to chill out and have fun. And have my own ways, like getting into nature, getting on the bike, or meeting with friends, or just, watching something on, Netflix, something like that, just that gets you out of that place, because you can become, it's easy to become a zealot. When you're on the spiritual path, it's an interesting journey, because when you first start, you might start having loads of awesome experiences. You start learning loads of things, and
Dude, I'm awakened, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't worry, I'm not sad anymore. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'm happy all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Like, everything's amazing, and like, oh my God, like, and then you start thinking like, oh, I'm enlightened, and I can do all these things. When I was in India, I grew my hair long. I was like, yeah, wearing a lungi and just walk around with my beads and start teaching. And then you can easily, because we're in that stage, you might not be having to do the real hard stuff, like set up a business or support a family.
Yeah.
This stuff is the really hard stuff. Like, awakening is fun. And stuff definitely comes up, but generally speaking, like, if I think in my 20s, traveling, university, traveling, studying, it was like one big adventure. And then you go very expansive, and you go into the top chakras, and it's great. But then there comes a point where you need to ground all of that stuff. You need to bring it to planet Earth, and you need to start to share that, and to teach, or to heal. To buy a house, or to have a property, to have family, get in relationships, build a tribe, build a community. And this is when you whoop straight back down: root chakra, sacral chakra, third chakra. And it's that kind of, and then you almost like have to start up again from the root down. And so you have to learn, and that's when a lot of the traumas can come up, like past, going deeper into your subconscious, deeper into your trauma. So I think these last 7.5 years since I've been teaching, I've had to go back into those root chakra, sacral chakra, third chakra issues, and then build the foundation, but also learn how to just be a normal person, and not be stuck in that teacher mode that we're talking about. So it's a challenge, but again, life is a lesson, and it takes you on a journey, and you're always learning. But the more awareness you can bring in, the more self-reflection you can have, where day to day, having that daily practice, then the more you're able to just make those little tweaks and learn those little lessons, and have those little reflections where you say, okay, well, maybe the way I was acting there wasn't quite right. I was stuck in teacher mode there, or I could have been a bit more relaxed in that scenario, for example. So I've gone a bit of a tangent there, but
no, it's brilliant, brother, brilliant. And there's that space we create for finding that balance. A lot of people go on the spiritual journey, and straight away they become ungrounded, and for some reason they don't speak to people, the family members, anymore, because they're so far up in their spiritual world that they don't have time for that type of thing anymore, because they think it's low vibration. So as well as thinking that we have the responsibility to, if anybody's out there and they've got family issues, it's time to resolve it. It's time to come to some sort of forgiveness with it. Because if you say you're a spiritual person, spirituality is about truth. It's about so many different parts of ourselves, how we work together, how we communicate, how we deal with our family. So family is so important, James, isn't it? So it's like that relationship with your mum, if you grow up being a rebel and kind of go off, it's important to come together and forgive them for who they are, even though they're not on the same journey as you. We still have to love them, and we still have to speak to them. Yeah,
that's a really good point. I mean, I think there's like a process that you kind of go through on your spiritual journey, and the first part is that expansive, like, we're learning, I'm waking up, starting to have some spiritual experiences.
Hi mum, hi dad.
yeah, it's like, wow, everything's amazing. And then I think when you after some years or however long, I think there's like an antisocial period. So I definitely went through an antisocial period of time, and in a sense, maybe I'm still even just coming out of that. But I think the last few years I haven't moved out of that phase. But definitely towards the end of my time in India, and even maybe the first few years, of being home, where in a sense you need to kind of protect yourself, and you know, you're working on yourself and you become very insular and introverted and like, okay, shit, oh hold on, I've got all this trauma, all this karma, you know, and you're like, I've got to do my spiritual practice and can't be, you know, influenced by other people. And you know, people can trigger you, and it's the worst things, like that family, you know, that family meal or that family celebration. A lot of people have issues with those kind of big family events.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I have in the past. It's like,
Yeah.
oh no, just people who still think you're like that 7-year-old and you haven't changed. They only know you from being a child.
Yeah.
So, and I've definitely felt that. And even something recently is, it's all about, if you hold on to resentment, you know, if you hold on to charge, you know, say you feel, you perceive yourself to have differences from family members, or more likely you perceive something wrong has been done to you in the past, and you hold on to that resentment, and then you're like, oh, I can't be around that person, especially family members, because family is the best way to be triggered is with your family, and also with your romantic partner,
Yeah.
and also with your friends sometimes as well.
Yeah.
But so I think you go through this antisocial phase where you kind of reject people, you reject old friends. Like, I'm a different person. I'm, you know, Mr. Spiritual, like all these maybe old school friends, university friends, family members, you know, you reject that, all that, because you are changing. You do change your lifestyle, your habits. You're not going to necessarily go out drinking and partying all the time like you may have done in the past, things like that. But then what I think, once you go through that process, that kind of shut down, closed off, introverted, insular, focusing on myself, you then have to learn the social skills again. And I remember coming home from India and finding that process this first couple of years quite challenging. It's just learning how to be normal and how to be relaxed, and not to be like some sort of stuck up spiritual, you know, like I'm holier than thou kind of attitude, you know, just because you've had a few, Messiah complex, or put yourself on a pedestal because you might have had a few experiences, or you may have done this or that or the other, and you perceive people to be different to you, or they're not awoke, or they haven't gone on that path. I mean, it's a delicate balance, because you do need to still protect yourself and protect your energy. You don't want to be around negative, destructive people, and it can be very difficult if you're in a relationship, or you live with parents, for example, and you're just not on the same wavelength. Maybe they've not gone through that process, because you do have to shed a lot of the past when you go on this spiritual journey, because the old frequency and the old vibration isn't relevant. It's not a reflection. It doesn't resonate with who you are now. So a lot of stuff is shed, but things that can't be shed, for example, family, it's about, I think, a new way of dealing with them and managing them. And again, it all comes back to forgiveness and self-control, not allowing yourself to be triggered. So I've gone through this process a little bit with my extended family, where, you know, I used to think, oh no, I can't be bothered with these big social family events. But now I really look forward to them.
Yeah.
But I've gone through a process of forgiving and also becoming more established in myself, and just learning social skills again, because I do think you can forget those social skills when you go deep into this spiritual path and all the spiritual practices. You can shut yourself off from people. So yeah, it's a really interesting process. Matt Carney says it beautifully. He said that we're God learning social skills. Now, you know, ultimately how we relate to other people is the true testament of how developed we are, how we relate to people.
And there's so many people out there. Even I've met teachers with a lot of people following them who have that problem of being a hermit, where they're that involved into teaching, doing all the spiritual practice, but their social life has just completely disappeared out the window. and that connects to me as well. Like the last years, I've not really had many friends. I've had James and a few other friends, because my expectations and I don't know what it was, my pedestal was too high for other people, or I didn't really want to talk to them because they weren't into the level of conversation I can have when I speak to James or other close friends. So I've had to change that about myself, to have other friends and let people in and saying, come on, get off this little ego trip, what I'm on, that's a program, that's self-defeating, is self-destruction. And like, spend time with people who are on the journey, but even if they're not have the same views of you, it's listening and appreciating it and not being charged and telling them what to do, or disagreeing as well. Disagreeing is one, James, which a lot of people tend to do, which is again very polarized. When someone writes a Facebook post and a troll comes on and go, hang on a minute, no, this is the answer. And it's kind of like how we've all got our own answer, which is our own unique truth. So let's talk about that a little bit, James.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, again, when you start to learn these things and you have these opinions, it's so easy to become a zealot. My way is the only way. This is the truth. Your truth is correct. And it's such, and we all go through that phase, you know, and it really just comes from a place of ignorance and self-righteousness, and being very judgmental. And so it's having the empathy to recognize that everyone's on their own journey, everyone has their own beliefs, everyone is going through, we're all evolving. So if your opinions and your beliefs are going to change day to day, so if that's true, then how can you be so fixed on a certain perspective or belief system? And it's the same with religion, it's the same with sexuality, it's the same with race. You know, everyone is unique and everyone has their own perspective and everyone's on their own journey. So it's about coming from a place of not being judgmental, not being self-righteous, being humble and having empathy to relate to people, and knowing when's like, know your audience, to say like, when's a good time to say something and when's not, when's it a good time, who can you talk about these wild things like conspiracy theories or UFO aliens, or, you know, there's some people you can talk to about that stuff with and some people you just can't. At the same time, you do need to be discriminative. If someone is being destructive in your personal space, if someone is having a negative influence on your frequency, who's being disrespectful or is has destructive habits, you know, or you know, you have the right to say, you know, no, thank you, I don't want that energy in my frequency. And, you know, so it's a balance. But so, you know, when you're talking about you let old friends go, you let old social groups go, I think that's a very, very natural process. That's a necessary process, and you build new groups, new social groups. But what you're talking about, you're saying basically, because if people become zealots and start to try and change other people's journeys and other people's beliefs, you can't change anyone. You know, you lead and live by example. You don't lead by telling people what to do and that this is my belief and this is right and you're wrong, because that's zealotry, fundamentalist, self-righteousness. Instead of, you know, it's about leading by example and being open, because there are so few truths actually in life. You know, I think Bashar, the guy who channels Bashar, he says like there are 5 truths. You know, we're all connected, we're all one. You know, there's eternity, you always have been, always will be. I can't remember them all off the top of my head. The last one is everything changes except for those first 4 rules. So the laws of reality are very few, very, very few. Absolute truths are very limited. So it's all relative. Everyone has their own perspective. Everyone has their own understanding, and learning to honor that. At the same time, if people are open to your opinion and your perspective, and then you can share that. If you do say something on social media, you do a meditation or something, people have the choice. They either listen to that or they don't. You know, that's their choice. But if you're forcing down people's throats, if people want to come to my class, they can. If they don't, they don't, no problem. But it's when we start to think that for some reason that we have all the truths of the universe and other people don't, that's when it becomes dangerous. And again, that's a phase, I believe that's a stage that we can all go through, especially it's that antisocial, when you go through that antisocial phase on the spiritual path, you can become very dogmatic and a zealot. And then it's learning just to relax all of that stuff and just to chill out, be open, be more, just be more open to people, and just take the spiritual stick from out your ass, basically. get off your high horse.
And listening, like for me, when I'm in social situations, listening to people, and say if like I spoke to you, James, and you were talking about something, I always make sure I'm listening to you, understanding you, and taking what you are saying. But then so many people kind of say, oh no, but this, but that. But we have to learn, we have to listen to people. And even like we've talked about, their truths different than ours. We just listen, and we give them that space to talk to us, and they've created that space for us, and we accept it, and we listen, and we keep talking. It's when these programs come into us where someone says a certain subject, but you feel like you know the truth about it. Like, oh, the guy who killed this guy, oh no, it was this person killed Diana, stuff like that. It's about, even though you are aware that your own truth is different, it's not trying to change them, or not using narcissistic tendencies to say, oh, hang on a minute, what about this? And trying to push a narrative onto them. And the conspiracy industry is a lot like this at the moment. There's a lot, from when you start posting stuff about certain things, about exposing the world for what it is with the child trafficking, there's a lot of people who tend to go into program Agent Smith mode when you talk about this, and it's not information anymore, it's just an argument between who's right and who's wrong.
Yeah, it's difficult when you get onto a subject as sensitive as child trafficking or the conspiracy stuff, because a lot of people, even if there's so much evidence showing that it's clearly happening, a lot of people refuse to believe it. But the reality is, child trafficking has existed since time immemorial. Since there's been any form of slavery, empires, this stuff has gone on, and it was more open, and it was more openly practiced. And it's just happening now, but behind closed doors. So yeah, it's a difficult one, and I know that you brought it up with your interview with Lindsay and Carly. On one hand, there's a responsibility to create awareness. People have the right to know about this stuff if they're ready to hear it.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it's when you become a zealot, and you start to say, well, this is how it is, and you should do this, and you should be outraged, you should be appalled, this is happening, so you should believe it. And the whole coronavirus and all the theories and conspiracy. But then I've got friends who would say, well, you have to take a stand. It's your duty to get angry. It's your duty to be an activist. I mean, that's personally not a stance that I take, but I think there are things that should be talked about. And yeah, like if you have, Carly brought up the good point where it forces you to deal with your own shadow. Like what I was reflecting on earlier today was, it seems that this year the global shadow is coming up. So take the conspiracy stuff, take the child trafficking stuff, that is an Epstein and all this stuff. That stuff is becoming, the shadow is coming to light. Yeah. The darkness is finally starting to be exposed for what it is. The amount of people that have woken up in 2020 to these conspiracy theories, to the stuff that's going on behind the scenes, it's probably been one of the best years, if not the most amazing year for people waking up, people seeing through the absolute bullshit that's being presented to us on the media and stuff like that. And the way I see it is, collectively, we are, as a species, we're purging our collective shadow. We're getting rid of the darkness. But I've definitely found, certainly through lockdown, my own shadow. My shadow's always presenting, but I feel like definitely I've been very aware of my shadow these last few months. And that collectively, the planet has been purging its shadow, and a lot of that is to do with the child trafficking, but there's so many different elements to that. So I think when people are ready to deal with that stuff, then it can be very healing, because they ultimately end up healing their own shadow as well as healing the collective shadow. They're doing a job for the collective. You know, when you lose your charge, you know, when I first heard about some of these horrific things that are happening a few months ago, it was just sickening, like utterly sickening when you hear about what is happening. Potentially, again, we don't know 100%, but these are things that have happened for thousands of years, and they've come back from the days of Egypt, and they're in the Egyptian texts of the way the life force is harnessed from children. It was like horrifying, but I had to go quite like I had to really go into the light to balance that dark. So for a month or two, I really went into the light, listened to certain music. I went back to more Christian roots, which are very light-based, very pure, to balance that darkness that I was processing. And now I'm in a place where I don't feel as polarized or as triggered by it. So I think it's a really difficult question. Like, do you, in terms of exposing this stuff, when you become aware of it, what is the right thing, and what's the appropriate thing to do? And I think
fine line, isn't there, James, where the way, say, Andrew Bartis talks about stepping on people's journey and how it's important not to step on others' journeys and let everything kind of play out. But there's that inner side of us where we kind of like, actually, no, enough's enough. We need to stand up. There's a fine line how to go forward, isn't there? And say, you're talking about things being more exposed, the shadow being more exposed in the world. It's looking to future potentials of how we're going to all come together and create change. Are we going to do it through anger, or is it going to be where everyone realizes their own source stream selves and we all come together in love and unity, and we do a peaceful protest where we break all the contracts, vows and agreements? It's a tough one, isn't it? This subject is very, very in depth, and like how we can go about it, or how do we go forward with our own world?
Yeah, definitely. I think it helps just to kind of stick to facts. Like, for example, I put a post on, which I shared from someone else, that was showing all the cases in the news of child trafficking rings and people that have been arrested. And there was loads. They were like just in 1 month, I think it was July. And it really, it seemed to resonate and become a very popular post, because I think it's based on facts. Whereas if I see chemtrails in the sky, take some pictures because I'm getting triggered because I like the sun, you know, and like put the pictures there, and people are like, well, that could just be a normal kind of contrail, you know, not a chemtrail. So I think it is a difficult one. I think you have to do what you feel in your heart.
Yeah.
You know, if you feel passionate about something and you feel strongly motivated to speak out about something, then you should. Yeah. If you're doing it for any other reason, or if you're coming from anger, if you're coming from being triggered, then you're probably going to get some sort of negative response. Maybe positive and negative, but I think it is really about the energy that you're coming from when you're doing these things. But I do feel that to help build awareness is important, and that we all do have a part to play in whatever shape or form that might take.
Did you hear about the BBC statue? The statue, it's in front of the BBC headquarters. It made me laugh.
Yeah.
I brought it up, and it's actually a convicted paedophile holding the naked baby, and it's still up there. So it's outside the front. This convicted bishop, I think, or I may be wrong there, holding this naked baby, penis out, and he's just holding it. And this guy's been convicted of paedophilia, and the BBC have actually still got the statue outside the front of their establishment.
Yeah. I
saw
people
triggers there, James. That again would trigger people to get angry, to get like, right, we need to do something physical or so on.
And people are out, and people were protesting outside the BBC, and they were showing that statue. So I know which one you mean.
Yeah.
And then when you see it, when you open your eyes, and it's so obvious. It's there. is so like, it's right in front of us, like, and
Yeah.
stuff with the Pinocchio, and I don't want to go too much down the conspiracy route, but it's very obvious when the eyes are open, and then it's like, okay, well, what do you do with that knowledge? And again, we do have a responsibility, but I think it's the frequency that you come from. If you're coming from love and from wanting to build awareness, and you're coming from not just theories, it's coming from some sort of fact, there's evidence, then I think it can be very powerful to help awaken. This is one of the best ways to awaken people, to break them out of the spell of the cultural narrative and the 3D fixed reality, that there is other things happening beyond what we're told, what we're programmed. This is mind control central. We are controlled to think this is a coronavirus, this, and blah, blah, blah. And it is a story. It's an illusion. We're caught up in this dream that's being programmed. We're very impressionable as a species, as beings. And so when you start to unplug the Matrix, if you've not seen the Matrix, you have to watch the Matrix, because it's a perfect metaphor. You unplug from the system and you're like, holy, actually reality is very, very different from what we're being told. And that's very liberating, but also it can be very challenging and very painful.
And it's like the reality from the Matrix of control. Sometimes we mirror that reality in our own life and we give it to the people. So kind of what's happening around us is mirrored into our own life.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, everything external doesn't even exist. Like, if you go into deeper teachings of philosophy and spirituality, there is no external world. It's all just us, our own shadow. We are purging our own shadow, and we're seeing that externalized. We're purging and releasing our own control issues, and we're seeing that externalized. So, it's as within, so without. And as we are seeing a lot of these shifts externally, I'm sure we're all going through our own shifts of our own awakening and letting go of shadow, letting go of control and anger. And especially now, the astrology is super strong. We've got like Mars squaring Saturn, Jupiter, and Pluto, all in Capricorn. And Capricorn is structure, government, the boss, organization, control. And Mars in Aries is our energy, is ourselves. So there's a lot of conflict coming through now in these next 6 months, and this is happening 3 times. Mars is squaring these planets 3 times, and there's going to be, this story hasn't ended. Lockdown hasn't ended, and everything's going to go back to normal. Well, I'm hoping we don't get another lockdown, but some craziness is bound to happen, whether it be just like they go crazy with the masks, which they already are, but anyway, we'll just see what happens.
So let's have a think now. So use a bit of the psychic skills. So say potential, James, of the future of COVID-2 coming into our reality. What's the potential of the world you feel then? What's kind of using your sense to, it is a potential, and what would you think what would happen in our reality, and how would it change and stuff?
Oh man, I'm not even thinking. I'm not even thinking.
Not giving it time to dream.
I'm not going there. I've just got back to classes, so the thought of another lockdown is not something that, I think, like we'll manage and stuff. It will just be more healing and more personal transformation. But if it's in winter, it'll be much more challenging. I think it'll be tough. I think it'll be really tough if there's another lockdown. I'm hoping there won't be. But if there is, I'll embrace it, and I'll just go through the process that needs to be gone through. So we'll just see what happens.
So before we had a few things we wanted to talk about, but I feel this show is really great because we've kind of touched and gone in complex into the discipline side of things. So before we say goodbye, James, can we talk about some of the neutral side of things, of why people should be able to learn about neutrality, and what's neutrality? What does it mean?
Neutrality means you approach life without charge or polarity, i.e. you're in a place of heart-centeredness where you respond to life and you don't react. again, it goes back to programs. If we are, when we're triggered, when we react, we have emotional charge. We have some pain, some undealt with trauma or pain that's causing us to act or to not act in a certain way. Yeah, so it might be anger, or it might be passivity, it might be depression, it might be addiction. This is an action that's based with an emotional charge, with a painful memory behind it. When we come from neutrality, we act from a place of centeredness, from the heart, from zero. So in the Buddhist tradition, in the Mahayana tradition, they talk about shunyata, which is literally means zero, is emptiness, and that is almost like their God. So you can't, everything is essentially empty of definition, empty of. We give things labels and we give things meaning, but really, in the Hindu tradition, they call it consciousness, pure consciousness. Everything is just, everything is, and that all there is there is isness. There is. It's we who give it meaning and labels and things like that. So when you come from neutrality, you're not judging, labeling, you're not reacting, you're not fighting, you're not resisting, you're not controlling. You're in the flow, in the moment, and you're acting appropriately to the moment because you're coming from your heart and the intelligence of the heart. You're not coming from the programs, from the not acting from triggers or charge. So yeah, neutrality, I think, is the journey that we're all on, and we enter into our natural, authentic, unique expression of source. It's the true self, and we're not coming from from all those negative qualities. So I feel that that's the journey we're all on in spiritual practice, processing and healing and letting go and forgiveness and awareness are all ways that we can move into more of a neutral state, as opposed to being in that place of polarity.
Beautiful. And there's that choice, isn't there, between where they say light's dark. There's not really many people talking about the in-between and the middle ground of where you're in your own space and you're choosing to be a neutral being. As much as you can, we're going to go out of neutrality into polarity. Of course, that's just how human beings are. But having the neutral as kind of like going back to the neutral points when you need to, and really seeing your life from a neutral way, or if something happens, having a deep breath, using the breath works, bringing yourself into the heart space, the heart center, and making sure you're grounded and more of in a neutral stance, because when you're ungrounded, you're more in the polarized stance.
Absolutely. It's so easy to fall back into old habits when you're tired, when you're under stress. It's so easy to react. And so really all the meditation and the practice helps to prepare you for those challenging times when you are tired and you're just like, no, I'm not gonna, just keep it, just stay centered, or don't act like you've done in the past. So it's the journey that we're all on, I feel. And and then that place of neutrality is a place of love. It's a place of acceptance, and it's a place of tolerance, and it's a place of compassion, and it's a place of peace, as opposed to anger or depression or anxiety.
Beautiful, beautiful. So thank you so much, James, for coming on, brother. I've really enjoyed it.
You're welcome, my friend.
Really enjoyed it. It's nice to have you on. We had you on the second one, and it was kind of, we did it with Chris, but it's so nice to be able to have you, just to be able to speak about certain things and go into them. So we'll have you on again at some point in the future to talk about dreams and the dreaming process and how important the dreams are. So your future event, James, is there anything you kind of want to tell everybody what's happening in the future with you?
Yeah, so classes have restarted, so we're back to weekly yoga and Pilates classes. You can find out about those on the website, www.yorkshirewellbeing.co.uk. So we're in Harrogate in North Yorkshire. We're just getting back to things, but I'm starting my yoga teacher training on Friday, the 4th of September. I'm running it every Friday until July 2021. So really excited about that. It's going to be definitely a new challenge for me. So if you want to learn to become a yoga teacher, it's 36 Fridays in the year, so not every Friday. 10 till 4, then again, you know, you can feel free to get in touch. You can contact me via the website yorkshirewellbeing.co.uk.
I'll pop the link below on the YouTube description, dude, for your all your social links.
That'd be brilliant.
Brilliant.
Great.
Well, thank you so much, brother, and you have a lovely day.
Cheers, my friend. Take care, dude.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for watching the Talking Stick Show. I really appreciate everyone who has supported so far. And together we dream the great dream. Have a great day, evening, morning, whatever you're doing. Aho. Bye-bye. See you later, brother.
See ya.
Bye-bye.